The following days were pretty rough. On paper, having several teach me etiquette sounded simple, but it turned out they required a lot of rules. I remember every once in a while a safe center courier would come home to deliver something for my family. They would always conduct themselves with exaggerated elegance, as if their every move was part of a play script. I guess that description turned out to be quite apt. It wasn't the kind of thing you could learn with just a few hours of practice, but Sellers kept encouraging me. He would assure me that even I didn't have all of it down by the time of my first job, going in with a bit of practice was preferable to going in blind. I couldn't argue against that. No, Lord Sachs, your parcel was off. Let us start over. Ugh. By the way, Sevils, why do you keep calling me Lord Sachs? I'm afraid I don't understand the question. I mean, I am a servant Nerus as well now, am I not? It seems odd that you keep calling me a lord despite that. Ah, I see. Your current occupation is to erase the fact that noble blood flows through your veins, Lord Sachs. If all of us who stand beneath the master share the same weight because of that fact, then there wouldn't be any difference between me and any other station you might find out there. Now, would there? That would be truly heartbreaking, the servant said with a somber voice, although he brought his hand to his chin and giggled a second after. I guess so. You really care about your job, huh? Well, yes, the master might not be the most cheerful person, but working for him has brought me a great sense of fulfillment. Maybe it doesn't mean as much to me because I'm still young compared to most solicitors. But I figured for someone as old as him, having something that gives him fulfillment, as he calls it, must be a pretty huge deal. Lord Sachs, is something the matter? You're making quite a scary face right now. Am I? Sorry, it wasn't anything you said. I just recalled something unpleasant. Let's resume practice, if that's what you wish. But first, let's talk about your panicking. Oh boy. Practicing with sales wasn't bad at all. I found myself having fun despite struggling with his lessons. As for Nerus, sometimes we would talk in the study whenever he had a job for me. But every once in a while, when going for a walk outside the house, I would find him taking care of the garden. At those times, I would approach him and try to make a little chat. At first, I struggled to find a conversation topic, since I didn't know much about his personal tastes. But one day, I asked him if he had any books he would recommend me to read in my free time. He listed a couple of titles, and since then, whichever book I was reading became our conversation topic. I like to think he enjoyed our little chats, but I couldn't tell with his expression always being so stiff. But to me, he seemed more awkward than disinterested. At times he would look annoyed, but eventually I noticed those glares weren't directed at me. Sometimes he would remain silent for minutes, staring at a wall or at a particular flower with a look I couldn't decipher. I started thinking he was perhaps somewhat of a hermit and not good with people outside work. Anyways, the worst part of these days was the wave of anxiety that hit me every time Nerus called me to carry out a job for him. Even if things went smoothly, once I came back, I dropped in bed, mentally exhausted. The fear of mixing up my lines, losing my balance, or even accidentally smacking someone with my tail when doing those dance-like moves haunted me. Thankfully, the last one only happened once. But despite my worries, I can say that this was one of the most treasured periods of my life. It would sometimes get a bit lonely or boring, but in time I grew to feel warm at the presence of those two, and that was all I needed. Besides, it wasn't like my previous life hadn't come with its fair share of isolation. And now that I'm talking about this, I think it's a good moment to bring up the first odd thing I noticed soon after I started living here. Namely the fact the house seemed uninhabited besides the three of us. After my second session of etiquette practice, I realized that I hadn't seen anyone besides Nerus and Sellers yet, but I brought it up with the servant. That's because we are the only ones living here. Before you came, there was the master's former warper as well. And why is that? It was expected the house of a great sister to be brimming with life. The master had told me he enjoys a calm and quiet. Perhaps bringing in I bet not my people will ruin that for him. Perhaps. Well, you seem to be handling yourself pretty well despite being the only servant here. I haven't spotted even a speck of dust so far, although the house is pretty dark. No need to praise me, Lord Sax. Let's return inside. I must prepare supper. Will you be joining the master again, or will you rather eat in your bedroom? I already told you I would rather join. One day, when I came back from making a delivery, I was received by several at the entrance. He had news for me. Lord Sax, a guest arrived while you were out. He will be joining us for supper. Make sure you look your best. I thanked him and went upstairs to rest. Then, at the usual time, descended to the dining hall. When I arrived, Nerus was sitting at his usual spot at the end of the table. On the chair to the right sat the noble. Welcome back, Sax. I suspect Sel's already informed you we have a guest tonight, but allow me to introduce you. This is Baron. He's a state-scepter noble. And Baron, this is Sax, my new warper. Nice to meet you, boy. Oh, you too, mister. It's a pleasure. The queen's out of the way. I sat on the chair on Nerus' left and listened to their chatting while we waited for supper to be served. Baron spent a while complaining about bodily needs, subordinates asking for more food and better housing, or getting in trouble from stealing from the mortals. Nerus nodded at his ramblings, his eyes not even focused on the noble, but he soon decided to get to business. They started talking about where they would be spraying the royal guard next and the methods they would use. Much of my dismay was for this last topic that Baron directed his attention at me. By the way, Sax, I've heard your family came up with a great way to impart gnosis. Maybe we could learn something from them. Please tell me about your time working with them. You were doing that until you arrived here, huh? There is nothing noteworthy I can say about that time. My brow furrowed at the question, but the noble still looked cheerful. Nerus, for his part, was eyeing me, but remained silent. I hoped the noble would drop the topic and resume his conversation with the great state-sifter, but he insisted. Nonsense. I know it takes time, but their method guarantees a great amount of gnosis. Come on, no need to be shy. The only thing to learn from them is cowardice and treachery. I advise you to look somewhere else if you want to improve your methods. I uttered. This seemed to stun the noble, who gave me a somewhat perplexed look. Now, Sax, you shouldn't speak ill of your family. They do a wonderful job spreading blessings around like that. Wonderful job, blessings. Please, do tell me what is so wonderful about luring others into false insecurity, or to lead them to the slaughterhouse as if they were a herd of sheep. If you want more morals on our side, perhaps you should focus on trying to gain their grace by helping rather than resorting to trickery. They already have enough reasons to loathe us. That's a very juvenile way of thinking now. Preferable to thinking as scum. My words had gotten the noble angry as well. His face contracted to a pout, and he clenched his fist. Knowing he couldn't touch me, he shot a glance at Nerus, as if asking him to reprimand me. Nerus seemed attentive to our exchange, yet detached. His gaze was sharp as a knife when it fell on me, but not out of anger or disapproval. I looked back at him expectantly, staring into those wings of fire in the darkness within, searching for something that could help me understand him. After a few seconds, though, he sighed and looked at Baron. I beg you, forgive his behavior. Sax, as noble yourself, you should know it is unsuitable for you to resort to personal insults. I'm sorry I lost my behavior. On the other hand, you know the reason he is here is because of disagreements with his family, Baron. I expect you to be wise enough to not go prodding at sore spots. Yes, do forgive me for that. That aside, I have to agree with Sax that his family's methods might not be the right ones to pick up, especially if you are trying to turn it into a large-scale operation. If we go down this path before long, the angel will no doubt take notice and interrupt before we can show our rewards. We need to look for a more sustainable alternative. I see. Yes, I hadn't seen it from that angle. I could have sworn that at that moment Nerus shot a scornful glance at the noble, but it only lasted a fraction of a second. I don't believe the other shapeshifter even noticed it, except our wives shortly after. As we ate, the conversation topic shifted from work to shared acquaintances and such. Their talk took a dark turn when Baron brought up some shapeshifters that had gone hollow not long ago, but they didn't dwell on the topic for long. After the blinded, I decided to eat my food in silence. I just wanted the night to end so I could go to sleep. Oh, look at the time. My warper is scheduled to come to pick me up pretty much right now. The shapeshifter said after we finished supper. I'll tell Severals to escort you out then. Thank you for visiting. Yes, thanks for the hospitality. Let's meet again another time. Nerus nodded and called the servant who led Baron out of the dining hall. I thought it was a good time for me to slip away as well. Well then, I'll get going. Just as I was getting off my seat, I felt a huge hand grab me by the shoulder, pinning me back in place. I looked up and I saw Nerus. He had gotten up from his chair at some point, staring at me without a single blink. Yes? Do not worry too much about the day. Nobles can be unpleasant at times. Although I am certain you have had your fair share of experiences with them, considering your background. Still, watch your tongue before I guessed. Yes, again, I'm sorry. I'll be more careful in the future. Good. Is there something else? Yes, it's about your family. Your father informed me not long ago that you are a second-generation amnesiac. I see. You do not seem very surprised. As if that Carol would dare keep that secret from you any longer with me living under your roof. Sax, I told you, we are not in front of guests right now. You do not think highly of your family. Tell me, did they bring harm upon you? Is that why you resent them? Nerus frowned as he said these last words. I didn't want to feel intimidated, but it was hard not to with his huge hand pinning me to the chair. That said, that wasn't the only response his actions got out of me. I feel a strange and warm tingling rising up from my stomach to my chest. It burned, yet left behind a cold sensation in its wake. An emptiness. No. They didn't do anything to me in particular. May I go now? It would be lovely to talk with you another time, sir, but I'd like to get some rest now. I smiled at him. All the tension in his face seemed to dissipate at that moment, and his hand slipped off my shoulder. Just so you know, I got in touch with the doctor that diagnosed you. We are working on adding you to the amnesiacs register now. Alright, sounds good. Nerus nodded. That is all. Have a good night. You too, sir. I exited the dining hall and made my way up to my bedchamber. Yikes, what happened there? Did I do something to upset him, or maybe he was still annoyed at how I talked to the noble, but he didn't seem to care moments ago. Could he have been just concerned about me? Ugh, I shouldn't have gotten intimidated. Although his eyes and the way he held me, it didn't feel bad. I didn't understand what that simple but forceful act had awakened in me yet. Even so, I was sure of one thing. I wanted to try to get closer to him. I opened my eyelids. I looked at the clock and it was still very early enough. I would prefer to keep sleeping, but my body felt restless. I couldn't stop myself from moving, nor clear my mind from thoughts about what had taken place the night before. That towering figure looming over me, the stuff he held my shoulder with. That white fur, how soft it would be if I dipped my fingers in it, how warm. He was close enough as I smelled his perfume, and electricity ran up my spine to my brain, and my eyes jolted open. Perhaps I should get up. Can't let pesky physical cravings get a hold of my mind, no, sir. Well, how high would the chances of him also being interested in me be? I climbed out of bed and opened the wardrobe to retrieve my tabard and hat. Still 2 hours left until breakfast. What can I do in the meantime? I have never seen the TV in the parlor on, but checking it out is still worth a shot. If that doesn't work out, I got a lot of reading to catch up on. I settled for that plan and went downstairs. As I entered the parlor, I was received by an unexpected sight. I found Nerus sitting on one of the sofas, his 4 eyes closed and arms crossed. I wondered if he had fallen asleep like that, but soon he opened his eyes. Oh, I wasn't expecting to find you here, great sea sister. Having trouble sleeping? I averted my eyes. A bit. Is that why you are awake already too? I decided to come here to relax before the day starts at least. Oh, I see. I came to check out the TV here. Does it have a reception? No. What about video games? Do you have those? Not at all. What we do have is a video player and some old movies. Oh, watch a movie would be nice too, yes. Could I join me, sir? Nerus looked away, a bothered look on his face. It made me think that he was trying to enjoy some time alone. I might be annoying him. I better excuse myself out. It's fine you don't. I'll go look for something else to do. No, come back here. As I was about to leave the parlor, Nerus called me back, with quite the forceful tone at that. I lowered my head and tucked my shoulders by reflex, but I managed to stand more or less straight before turning back to Nerus. He cleared his throat, got up and approached the TV. Let's watch a movie. We have just enough time. Oh, sure. What do you say I make some tea to drink while we watch, too? If that's what you wish. Great. It won't take long. Don't start without me. As I prepared the tea, I had rattled my brain, wondering if it would be alright to sit next to Nerus during the movie. The sofa was the most comfortable spot to watch the TV from, but there were other seats. But there shouldn't have been anything strange about a great six-sister and his warper sitting together. I was overthinking it. After bringing the tea, I sat down next to him without saying anything to avoid slipping up and making things awkward. Nerus glanced at me, and that was all. I recognized the smell of his cologne mixed with something else. An assy smell, like that of a fire put out by persistent bitter cold wind. Ashes scattered around, unable to ignite again, becoming indistinguishable from the snow. He may start the movie sacks. Oh, right. The movie was about giant monsters fighting for dominance. The plot was very simple, and the morals, to my surprise, didn't seem to play a huge role, but the action and set pieces were pretty exciting. He kept me at the edge of my seat. I felt my heart sink when the bad monster dropped a good one from the stratosphere, seemingly securing its own victory. However, the combat that followed more than made up for it. I couldn't help but clap as I attempted to sing along the few vocals during that scene. Nerus, as usual, wore a stoic expression the entire time. I questioned if he even liked the movie, but he wouldn't have suggested it if he disliked it. He wasn't one to sow his excitement, I figured. In any case, it's pretty nice, if it isn't the best kind of movie to drink the tea to. Maybe I should have bought some soda instead. Well, Nerus, drink it anyway. How was the tea, sir? Not as refined as Servus's, but still good. I'll take that as a compliment. And what did you think of the movie? What was so thrilling? I'm surprised you like these kinds of movies, sir. How come? I was expecting a more serious and somber movie from someone that's no nonsense, as you, if that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with you liking it, of course. Yes, I know. Oh, so who made it? I would like to see more from the world this came from. Unfortunately, it's from a civilization that went extinct some time ago. Oh, But fear not, mortals have a fixation on giant monsters. You would be surprised to learn how many of them make monster figures of this kind. It's a very common archetype. You can't blame them. It's a fun concept. So, sir, what does it matter? I had my mouth half open, looking a bit stupid as I tried to come up with something to say. What can I ask him? I know pretty much his entire routine by now, so I hope it isn't an impertinent question. But when do you go out with your friends? I imagine it gets lonely in here, after all. Nerus pointed at my question, his gaze shifting ever so slightly. I meet with the other great state sifters when summoned. But that's part of your work, right? Do you ever meet just for pleasure? No, although if it is for pleasure, I do occasionally visit a brothel in order to relieve my earthly needs. Oh, I see. Geez, this is a bit too straightforward. Anyway, so he is a hermit. An odd quality for a leader to have, but I suppose he doesn't let it get in his way. I was starting to feel strange. My throat burned and there was an oppressive sensation in my chest, almost as if someone was trying to crush it to suffocate me. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. I noticed Nerus leaned just a bit closer, his nose twitching. What are you sniffing around for? It's all in the matter? You smell strange, Sully. He can't tell if my mood changes from my smell, can he? His hair is canine in shape, too. This could be compromising. Time to escape. Well, I take this to the kitchen now. I bet Several's preparing breakfast right now. I couldn't stop by and give him a hand while I at it. I jumped off the sofa and walked to the car I had used to bring the tea. However, Nerus stopped me from leaving again. I turned to him, visiting with my tablet some. Wait, I want to inform you that you will be performing a job other than a delivery soon. Oh? I meant to bring it up yesterday, but due to the visit you heading to bed early, I did not have a chance to bring it up. What will I be doing, sir? It's simple. I must attend to a great six-sitter gathering at the capital, and you will be accompanying me. I felt my eyes lighting up at the prospect. That sounds exciting. Indeed, but how odd. I'm expecting you to get nervous. Oh, no. As long as there aren't a lot of silly rules for me to break, I should be fine. I have attended to a couple of gatherings when living with my family. So you have. Do you know how to dance sax? Of course. And can you increase your height? That I'm afraid I can't do. Why? There might be a ballroom event. Usually a great six-sitter and a warper will form a pair, but in our case our height difference will be an impediment. Do not look so disappointed. We won't be the only ones not forming a pair. If you would still like to participate, you can look for a partner more fitting for you. Yes, you're right. They'll look that let down. We will attend the gathering next week. Make sure to look your best for the occasion. Yes, sir. After that, I exited the parlor and started heading to the kitchen. That could have gone a lot worse, all things considered. Is this jealousy I'm feeling over the brothel detail? Perhaps I should try to keep him busy so he doesn't have time to visit me again. Although I doubt he wants to spend all his free time together. Besides, it's as if there were walls all around him. He doesn't show what's beneath. Maybe he just doesn't want to get involved with me on a personal level. I shouldn't forget why I'm here. This infatuation will pass.